Hi, Wayne Chapin from Cerulean here. This video is going to be about the fact that in July of 2019, when I'm making this video right now, how it stuns me that when people contact us about extending or improving on their implementation of Microsoft Cloud services, Microsoft Office 365, Microsoft Azure, one of the things that we'll talk about when we're proposing a solution to them is, do they have multi-factor authentication set up? When we talk to them, they've already got their email migrated to Office 365. They've got the Office desktop apps set up for everybody on a subscription basis, but that's completely where it stopped. That's all that happened. They don't even have basic security set up on their system. Their idea of security is a username, which is their company email address, and then a password for which most of their users never changes. That's the way they were doing it on their on-premises network. The fact that the majority of companies don't have multi-factor authentication set up is crazy. Going back to this idea that your username is your email address, which is easy to find, your company email address, and you have a password that you use over and over. Then you need to think about, well, how many different websites and mobile apps have I logged into with my company email address as my username and my password that I'm using over and over? Now, a few of you might actually have the foresight to go ahead and set up a password that's different, but then even that, you'd have to keep that information somewhere. Some people will make a fake contact in their Outlook contacts, and that's where they'll list all these different passwords they have for all these different websites. Some people will use something like a password manager with Google, where they log in one time, but then Google maintains all these different passwords for these different websites. But for most people, they're just using their company email address as their login and their same password over and over and over. Let's go back to these third-party websites. Take this next half hour, and I just want you to list out all the different websites you go to do work in your company that you've created accounts for over the last couple years. The number would probably be somewhere between 10 to 20 different websites or mobile apps that you've used or logged into to create accounts. How do you know how well those third-party companies are managing their own security? How do you know they haven't been hacked? Are you getting a newsletter every week about who's been hacked into? Would you even bother to look at that? Would it be safe to assume in 2019 that some of them have been hacked into? That some of them, when they were hacked into, that the hacker got your company email address and your password was exposed? Do you think that is in the realm of possibility in 2019? Well, the answer is absolutely yes. 100% yes. There are many, many, many people that have been sent really freaky emails that said, hey, I'm in your system. Here's your password you're using. And then you go, oh my gosh, I have used that password. That is very, very common. You should assume that your passwords are out there available on the internet, at least your older ones. If there is nothing from these other websites, these third-party websites, or even Microsoft Office 365, Microsoft Cloud systems, assume that it's just out there. And you need to be set up that if your username and password were available on the internet, even if you accidentally sent it to somebody, or you gave it to somebody, or you left it on a note, that the system would still protect you. And that's what multi-factor authentication does. It says, well, we see you're logging in from a new device, a new computer, a new web browser. We haven't seen you log in from here before. We see you put in a proper password, but just to be safe, we're going to go ahead and challenge you once because this is new to us. We haven't seen you log in from here before. We're going to go ahead and ring your cell phone and make sure that's really you. That system exists for free. It's included in every single Microsoft Cloud service. And again, 99% of the companies out there don't even implement it. Part of the reason is this. It's not a small project to implement. When we are doing our Microsoft 365 Transformer project for a client, that's right at the top of the list, is doing the multi-factor authentication setup for the tenant. And then there's how many users times how many users that we have. And it's not a cheap line item on a project because every single user has to be touched. So either the internal IT department is doing it, the company's spending money on their time to do it, or the company is spending money with us in order for us to do it for the company. But we have to make sure everybody is taken care of and everybody can get in. So we have to make sure their cell phones are registered, it's enabled for their account, and then they pass through the first multi-factor authentication check. It's a process. It's a big one. But once you're done, you're done. And then it's just every once in a while, you'll have to add a new user in or something like that to get them set up. So it's not cheap and is a big process the first time you do it. Once you get over that hurdle, you're in good shape. People also then complain and worry about the hassle factor. Absolutely, it's there. I've actually had the system looking out for me and saying, you know what, somebody from France is trying to log in as you. We're really uncomfortable with what we're seeing here. And I'm saying that we being the Microsoft Cloud Services. We're uncomfortable with what we're seeing. You told us if we get really uncomfortable to go ahead and force a password reset. That happened to me one time. Somebody was trying to log in as me from France at 12:30 a.m. in the morning. Well, I don't do that. It didn't make any sense. I had to go and reset my password because I came in the mornings when I saw this, and I had to go through all my apps and re-log in, re-authenticate. It was so annoying. But was I glad the system was looking out for me? Absolutely, 100%. And sometimes people, what they'll tell us is we have people here that really aren't tech savvy and they're not used to this and they're going to get really uncomfortable with it. And it's going to be a problem for them. And those are the people that probably are most susceptible to attacks, phishing attacks, to maybe give out their usernames and passwords on third-party websites. Those are the most susceptible people. And then you also have the other objection, which is, well, the executives in the company, the owner, he doesn't want to be slowed down ever. He's also the person, or she's also the person who is most susceptible to try to be hacked into. So what do you want to do then? Do you just want to leave your mailbox exposed, your sensitive files exposed, and then you have a ransomware attack, or somebody is trying to get in where they can threaten to expose data or sensitive information? No, you want the system looking out for you. And every once in a while, you know it's working because it's saying, you know what, we should go ahead and just do a quick check to make sure this is still you. I'm going to ring your cell phone really quick. It is absolutely crucial that you have it. So important in 2019. You know, we manage 160 companies every single month. We've been around since 2002. We've seen all the typical stuff that a managed IT service company would see. We've seen clients get hit with ransomware. We've seen clients that one where somebody responded to a phishing email and wired $100,000 outside of the country. Huge, enormous problem. We've also seen people send us emails and saying, well, look, somebody has threatened to expose sensitive information in my mailbox. They were very, very nervous. Somebody was in there and they threatened to expose some things if somebody didn't send them money. All of this can be avoided if you just turn on multi-factor authentication. And again, it comes with all versions of Microsoft Office 365. All of them, to the cheapest version of Office 365 that you can get. I want to do kind of a public service announcement. If you don't have it, get it done. If you're the IT manager in the company, or you're the owner playing IT manager in the company, or the company hired you and you're the sales manager of the company, but you know a little bit about computers and so they're kind of having you handle things, whatever your role is there, get ahead of the problems, please, because they're such a headache and they're so problematic and they make everybody uncomfortable the first time that you get hacked into. And then you're going to look back and go, all we had to do is do this multi-factor authentication project, get everybody protected, because the system can already tell if it sees that you've never logged in from this device before. I can see you're doing that. I'm going to look. Do they have multi-factor authentication enabled? Yes or no? And if they don't, then it's just going to let that user in. So if you normally log in from Chicago and today it sees you log in from Brazil and you're not in Brazil, the system's just going to pass it through. If you have multi-factor authentication enabled, you're going to have a fighting chance where it's going to say, well, hold on, let me ring your cell phone. And it is a weird feeling. First time you get rang on your cell phone and you weren't trying to log in, you're going to be really glad that system was looking out for you. And the last thing I want to mention is if you can swing it. So most people that call us, again, they have Office 365 Business Premium or they have Office 365 E3, which is for them, all it really means is they got rid of their on-premise Exchange server. So they got email moved into Exchange Online and they got Office desktop apps. They don't use any of the other security features. They don't use SharePoint Online. They don't use Microsoft Teams. That's it. Again, they're talking to us because they know there's a lot there they can use. But if you can swing it, I would get Azure Active Directory identity protection. And that comes with Azure Active Directory Premium Plan 2. On an a la carte basis, it's $9 per user. It's included in Enterprise Mobility and Security E5, and it's included in Microsoft 365 Enterprise E5. But if you can get that, then you get the identity protection piece. What that does is it uses machine learning to determine if a sign-in event is too risky, if a user's risk score is increased, or if a user's credentials are exposed and available publicly on the internet. So let me mention those real quick. If the system sees you normally log in from Chicago and today you're logging in from Argentina, and you might very well be in Argentina, and it says, I see them logging in from a device that I've seen them log in from before, but they're logging in from Argentina. This is out of the norm of behavior for this user. I'm going to go ahead and force a multi-factor authentication or ring their cell phone just to make sure that's them. We can configure the system to say, based on a low, medium, high rating of a login risk, using machine learning, we can say force a password reset or force a multi-factor authentication, even if the system has seen that user log in from that device before. That's one of them. The other item with identity protection is if the system sees that a user's risk level is increasing. It's not a sign-in, but it's saying, well, the person signed in, but something is unusual about this sign-in. So somehow they pass through the multi-factor authentication, they put in the proper password, but something still doesn't look right about how this user is operating. What if you normally log in from Chicago and today somebody is logging in from California and they have successfully logged in? You are logged in from Chicago and California at the same time. The system will say, wait a second, the identity risk is so high now. I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to go ahead and say it's a high risk. I'm going to go ahead and force a password reset. And then the last one would be that if identity protection sees that your credentials, your username and password are available publicly on the internet, on the dark web, what do you want the system to do? Identity protection will scan the internet, scan the dark web looking for that, and if it finds it, we can say immediately force a password reset for that user. That's identity protection. So again, it's a very powerful feature to have. I use it. I'm very glad we do have it. Don't fool around with this. If you're the IT manager, you're the company, and you're the full-time IT manager, you got to get out of the mindset of having that on-premise Windows Server Active Directory with a username and password that never changes. And when you're moving into cloud services, know that you have all these incredible sophisticated systems available to you that you didn't have before, but you got to at least put basic protection in place for your users. And that goes if you are the IT manager and you work with a managed IT service company like us, for example, or that goes if you're an executive in the company or you're the owner of the company and you oversee IT. Get this in place. It's not something you want to fool around with, as the attackers are very sophisticated these days. And you can get this stuff in place and have a strong peace of mind. And lastly, of course, if that's something you want to talk to us about, basic security in your system, multi-factor authentication, or if you're like a lot of the other companies that say, we got email set up, we got the Office desktop app set up, but we know we could do so much more. We could be more secure, or we want to get our file server moved up in SharePoint, Teams, OneDrive, stuff like that. If you want to get Microsoft 365 set up right, or Microsoft Azure, and go serverless in your company, go 100% cloud-based in the Microsoft Cloud, you can give us a call. You can email us, support@Cerulean.com, or you can call us 847-995-9800. We'll set up a call and we'll go from there. Thanks for watching.